Clap for the Wolfman.
Ooh!
Clap for the Wolfman.
Is that a song?
We're going to take this whiskey high. Yeah, something like that. Welcome back to Whiskey Provisioner. We're back at West China Tea. We have a very special guest today. It's Cliff Smith coming in from the East Coast representing everything whiskey. Yeah. He's an instructor, he is a somm, he is a coach and a mentor to many people in the whiskey community, and we're so happy to have him here at West China Tea. Sohan has the tea. What are we going to be trying today?
Malac Phoenix. We just got this in a couple days ago. Red tea is like the tea that you pair with whiskey. If you don't know anything about tea or even whiskey, but you want to for some reason you want to pair tea and whiskey, that's the tea. That's what you do. You do a red tea and whiskey. Same with chocolate. You pair red tea with chocolate. It just pairs really well with stuff. And so I'm doing a really fancy red tea. I always refer to this as the cashmere of red teas. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, just because it's I'll let you see why. But it's Black Phoenix. It's made from cultivars that are usually used to make Phoenix Oolong. It is made in Chaozhou in southeastern China, where the same place where the last tea that we had was from. Yeah. Beautiful. And it's interesting, in that same shipment, that the sample of the aged green tea that we just drank also came a sample of this same kind of tea, but from a different guy. So actually, I'll let y'all smell this because you'll get a little bit of a horizontal smell flight here.
I get it.
Yeah, it's same, but it's different.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm eager to try that too because I've never had his. I don't know if he makes this or if he just sourced this for me. I'm not sure because he makes oolongs. But anyway, this is a type of red tea, what we call black tea, Lipton chai, Earl Grey. All the sweet tea you ever drank was probably this same type of tea, oxidized tea, all the way oxidized. That's what it is. It's not like green tea because green tea is unoxidized. This is all the way oxidized. There's 6 total types of tea, and 4 of them are on an oxidation spectrum. You got green tea, unoxidized; yellow tea, slightly oxidized; oolong tea is a whole range in the middle. Red tea, like we're about to drink, is completely oxidized. Then you got fermented teas, which are what they call heichas, which means black tea, literally means black tea, but not the same black tea that we think is black tea, which we call is actually called red tea, but not rooibos, which gets marketed as red tea and is not tea at all. It's from Africa. But yeah, so you got real Chinese black tea, which is heicha, which is fermented tea. It tastes like dirt in a good way. It's good. And then white tea, that is it traverses the oxidation spectrum as it ages. It starts off unoxidized, becomes oxidized. It's raw, sun-dried tea. And so we're here in this fully oxidized state. I'm just waiting for my water to get ready. I'm trying to think of stuff to say about tea. But in this fully oxidized state with these cultivars that are usually used to make oolong. And the reason that teas are used to make oolong is because they're fragrant, which is like what I mean by that is that the oolong is cultivar specific, kind of like hops or grapes, or probably barley and rye and all these things, and not all teas are. Some teas are just seed propagated tea plants, and that's the regional tea, and they're not cloning anything, they're not propagating anything, they're not breeding per se. It's just the population. But these oolong plants are, and the reason that they are bred and cultivated and propagated and cloned is because they're fragrant. They have these special fragrances. And so this is a red tea being made from those very fragrant cultivars, and what you get is that transition of that oxidation smell, that oxidation transition where the fragrances go from being like green tea where they're light, grassy, slightly floral, savory, umami, and then getting into that more like red tea where it's the chocolatey notes, sweet potato notes, cacao notes, different stuff that you get, burnt sugar, etc. So this is going to be a very, very fragrant tea. That's why I say this is like a fancy
Smelling the dried leaves, it reminded me of going into a room you haven't been in for a very long time. It has that dry, dusty, even a basement or a closet type of odor to it.
Well, here, smell it again now that
wake it up.
Woke up.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah. It's a big difference.
Oh yes, now it's all fruit.
It gets fruity.
Yeah.
Yeah, super fruity.
Ooh, that's like currants.
Yeah, red fruit.
Yeah, here's a little rinse for you, Richard. Rinse my cup. We were just drinking a an aged green tea, which is very paradoxical. You don't age green teas. That's not something that you generally do. But
black
this one
currants
was.
and red currants are not really that common here in the United States.
I've never had either of those.
Yeah, they actually had to stop cultivating black and red currants in the U.S. and gooseberries as well, I do believe, because it was affecting a lumber industry. So there was a parasite that comes along with it. So when you have purple fruit in a candy in the U.S., it's grapes. When it's European, it's black currant, red currant is the flavor of purple. So we actually have a different signifier for what purple tastes like in Europe as well as in the U.S. or Canada. And it's because of that one thing,
What purple tastes like.
Yeah.
Right. So you mean instead of grape, we think of purple is grape. They think of purple as
Currant.
purple as currants.
Yeah, exactly.
Purple as currants. Jesus Christ.
By the way, if there's going to be a quiz later, I need to know because I need to take notes.
That's the fun thing about this. We don't really prepare.
Exactly.
Yeah. Richard's on one today, though. Yeah. So I think Stephen got him all worked up. Now he's just like, whiskey stuff. Here, give that a smell now.
Wow, that is intense fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing about this. It's rabbit holes, and the same thing happens in tea. Coming here and listening to your different tea pourers, they all have different stories. They're all at different levels of their tea journey, and so when you sit down with one person pouring, you get certain stories, and even some of the stories that they're telling all have variations in the way of the telling.
Right.
And so it's great to hear somebody else's explanation of why you tap 2 times to thank thank them for the tea.
Yeah, Chinese culture, Chinese tea culture is all fanfic, no canon. That's what I've been saying. Okay, you get it. Okay, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Not everyone gets it, but I think it's a good analogy. But that's how it is.
Yeah, like vodka's 40% alcohol, 60% marketing.
Absolutely.
In some cases, that marketing percentage might be even higher.
That's good. That's good stuff. That's rich. All right, so I'm excited to try. I don't think we've ever done a whiskey with this tea before on this show. I don't know why. Maybe we have, but it's like it's like the perfect whiskey pairing tea, because it's just such a rich, super. I don't know. I'll tell you guys. What do you guys get?
This would have run really well with that Compass Box nectar. That it has those same style of fruity notes. It's not malty, but it is that black currant, red currant.
Yeah. You with the currants. Okay, so you smell, you slurp, audibly slurping, and then and you exhale through the nose. And on that exhale through the nose, I get what must be what a currant tastes like, because I've never had one. I've had Ribena. Yeah, Ribena is made from currants.
Oh yeah, the retronasal is definitely
That's where it's at.
circling
That's where it's at. Yeah, tea's super subtle. It's so much more subtle than whiskey, and even more subtle than like coffee or wine or beer or anything except for water. There's nothing more subtle than tea. And so the really, interesting things happen with it. When you finish your last sip, go ahead and wave your empty cup.
Yeah.
And then smell it, and then keep waving it, and then smell it again. And you get about 30 seconds. It's called the lung xiao, the cold fragrance, the cold aroma. And you get about 30 seconds of it, and it's very dynamic. I'm not going to say what it's like for me, because I'm just going to let you have your own experience.
It's also good is getting some dried strawberry fruit to it as well. This is so much more earthy.
That's like that retronasal where it's like this, it's different. It's there, and it's different.
Yeah, I like I almost get, not just dried fruit, but almost, if you've ever you've taken a piece of like freeze-dried fruit and put it in your mouth. You get that kind of slightly drying and I guess, what to say, not musty, but there's that, there's that initial lack of sweetness that you get from a piece of freeze-dried before it rehydrates a little.
I know.
And becomes.
I know exactly what you're talking about, because my daughter is always eating, she's 3.5, she's always eating little packets of freeze-dried fruit. I wouldn't have known a year ago.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not really.
I get peanuts.
Peanuts.
Interesting.
All right, well, there's no peanuts in it, If anyone's watching, this is not an allergen risk for peanut allergies.
Yeah, it's us trying to describe what we're sensing, and that's more than anything. It's memories of flavors and scents and places. And
Yeah, what do peanuts mean to you, Corey?
Actually, what I'm remembering is a basketball game in Gordon, Texas, Gordon, one of those. And that's actually where they grow tons of peanuts. And so, like, in the stands, they have, like, lots of peanuts and stuff.
Did your team
And so
win?
something about the dirt and the peanut shells,
shells.
is what I'm getting on this.
Was that a good night?
I played in JV and varsity basketball
win?
on the same night, and I dominated so much so that the coach said I couldn't play JV anymore. I had to play varsity from then on.
There you go. So what this really smells like to you is victory. And dominance. Yeah, that's the tasting note.
Maybe that's why I like
That's-
red tea so much.
No, red teas definitely have that kind of a charged vibe, but also that's why I dig on those notes. You know what I mean? Because someone says peanuts, I'm like, it doesn't fucking taste like peanuts. Like, this is some Corey thing. This is a Corey thing over here. There's something more to this.
And this is interesting because while I don't think I get peanuts out of it, when he said peanuts, it reminded me of something different that I did immediately tie to this, which was, because to me that moved, it was still a little bit of fruit, but it also moved into more of a candied honey and sweet. And what it reminded me of a little bit was the candy coating on, and it's more of a Northeast candy, I think, but the old Boston baked beans, where it was a peanut with the candy shell around the, the thin candy shell around the outside.
and beer nuts are like that as well.
Kind of, yeah. But it reminded me of that sweet with a little bit of just earthiness and other, not fruit, but something in the back that's bringing that honeyed or caramel sweetness in.
Yeah.
Are you from
So-
the Northeast?
Yeah, I grew up in Maryland and I live in Connecticut now. So
Okay. Cool. Boston. I've never had a Boston baked.
Yeah,
bean. I
I-
saw them at the movie theater. And I was like,
yeah, they're little red,
Yeah.
like crinkly outside shell. It's a thin candy shell over, I believe, a peanut. And
Yeah.
so if I think of it, I'll throw some in my bag next time I come back to
okay,
Austin.
cool. I'm
Bring some
curious.
back for you.
Regional flavors. All about
Exactly.
regional flavors.
So-
I love that stuff. That's what makes that's the flowers of culture. Wow. So excited to
Try
try.
some whiskey.
Well, and actually, I want to dig a little bit on that too. When you think about those baked beans, do you have a particular memory that jumps out? For
Not
you?
really. It was not a candy I had very often.
But you've had
But
it.
I
So
have
it's like a
had it,
tasting
and
note,
it
right.
kind of just if he wouldn't have said peanut, I likely would not have gotten there.
Right.
Right. I would have been. It's candy. It's a
Right.
little bit sweet. But when he said peanut, it immediately popped.
Yeah.
Oh, those Boston baked beans.
Yeah, and I think that's
You
that
know,
earthy
yeah.
candy coating on the outside.
That's
'cause
the
it's not
trick.
a sweet candy
No, it's not
coating.
super sweet. It's,
Yeah.
But there was enough a hint of sweetness with a little bit of earthiness behind it that triggered that to me when he said peanut. So
All right. So
okay. Talk a little
Shall
bit
we
about some
drink
whiskey.
whiskey?
Yes. So it'll be interesting. I'll be interested to see how this whiskey goes with this. It may go very well because it has some honeyed notes to it and such, which might pair well with this. But so the bottle I have here is Highland Park 12. Okay. Just a very nice, friendly dram to try. And I brought this because it's an interesting bottle that I use now. I consider it a gateway, one of the gateway whiskeys I use if people are interested in getting into peat.
Okay.
Okay, and a little story I have that goes with this that's kind of fun is I was on travel with a friend. We were on a business trip, and we got to talking about whiskey finally, and he said, yeah, I like whiskey, and I drink scotch. I'm like, okay, and we started talking about different scotches, and he said, I don't like peated scotch. Okay, fair enough. You get that a lot, and there are many people that truly do not like peated scotch, and that's fine. So I asked, okay, well, what is your favorite, scotch then, or what do you really like? And he's like, well, I have a special bottle at home. I drink on nicer occasions and such. And he told me it was Talisker 18. And I said, okay, so here's a teaching moment. I said, okay. I said, so what whiskey did you have that makes you think you didn't like peated scotch?
Right.
And I forget what the answer was, but I believe it was probably like a Lafroig 10 or something that has that very sharp,
Right.
strong iodine and such
Fire.
note.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm not sure you don't like peated whiskey. You don't like that peated whiskey that you had. I said, because I have to tell you that Talisker 18 you have at home is a peated whiskey.
Right.
And he looked at me a little strange. I said, well, tell you what, let's have some fun. So we were out one evening and we went into a little liquor store. And I was actually happy because they had some of the older Highland Park bottlings, the pre-Viking edition bottling. So I grabbed several of those to take home.
Right.
I reached out to another friend of mine who's a Highland Park enthusiast, and I checked the price to make sure it wasn't outrageous. And he's like, no, those are pretty good prices. So we grabbed several, and I picked up several of the 12s as well, and we took one back to the hotel, and we sat out by the pool, because this was early in COVID, actually. So we sat outside by the pool, and as a whiskey geek, I was traveling with a couple of Glencairns. So I pulled out the glasses, and I poured this for him. I said, now let me know what you think about this. And so we sat and we went through a pour or two that evening, and turns out he really liked it. I said, well, this is also a peated whiskey. I said, but it's a very different peat.
Right.
I said, this is from Highland Park, which is way up north, off the northern coast of Scotland. The trees don't survive up there. So all of their peat tends to come from heather and those types of things that have been
down in the marsh,
been ended up in the marsh, 4,000 years ago or whatever.
Yep.
I said, so it's a much more floral peat, right? It's floral and heathery. If you've ever smelled or when you smell heather, this tastes like heather smells to some extent. There's that heather note to it in the peat. I said, so it's a very different kind of peat, and it tends to be a much friendlier peat than say a Lafroig or a true Isla type peat. And so he liked that, and so he has since, and obviously we're still friends, we keep up. So he has since started exploring and has really now gotten into peat, and he's buying Octomores. He has definitely moved into the really heavy peated area as well now. But this, to me, this is one of those whiskeys you can use to change people's perception of peat or of just Scotch in general too, because it's a very different.
You can also change
palate.
your perspective of what it means to say Highlands, because that's actually the Orkney Islands.
Exactly.
And sometimes this is the thing about whiskey categories. Sometimes people set the islands. You mentioned Talisker,
right?
You've got Jura, you've got Arran. These are all islands, but they're in different parts. Arran could rightly be say it's closer to Campbelltown.
Right.
Is it a Campbelltown or a lowland
Yeah.
island? Whereas the Orkneys are in the Highlands part. Isla is separated out as its own thing. I've seen a lot of whiskey nerds that just go diving deep into one brand. Highland Park. There are people who just want every expression from that distillery, and then there are people that are the opposite bent, where it's like it's just not their preference.
Well, for a long time, and I don't know that it's still true today because there's been so many new distilleries popping up in Scotland. For a while, I believe they were almost the northernmost Scottish distillery. I think there may be some others that are north of them now. I'd have to go
in the Hebrides,
maybe somewhere, but in general, there for a while, they're definitely one of the more northern distilleries.
Okay, well, we better drink it because the tea's going to get weak if I keep drinking the tea.
Then let's drink it. So
I love peated Scotch. But for what it's worth, that's that first type of liquor. Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Just a wee one for me, please. Just a wee one. This might be my wee one.
It's been a long weekend of whiskey and song and dance. Make sure
you've been dancing? You been dancing?
And silly songs.
And I'm pouring light, but there's obviously more here. So here, if you
all right.
bottle.
All right. Yeah, I love freaking smoky whiskey.
Mulchy on the nose.
Yeah. So this is always a really nice approachable bottle. It's reasonably priced. You're not going to break the bank buying it.
It's always great to have something as an introduction whiskey. A lot of times when you get into higher conversations, you end up sometimes taking yourself out of conversation.
It's all good. It's all good. Nothing breakable. Well, yes, it's breakable. It didn't break.
Yes.
Okay, let's see it with the tea.
Yeah.
There's some saltiness, there's some brine in there as well.
Yeah, I say it works. I'm gonna try to do a stronger one. I feel like it would have worked better one steeping ago. Let's see what this one's like.
Oh, yeah. The tannins in the tea are bringing out
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
more of like a clove type of note. A little spice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun.
But it also it does bring out some of the sweetness in this.
Very much so, 'cause
the honey-ish
Yeah.
type sweetness that a lot of folks say is here.
Yeah, the red tea is actually drying the palate and cleansing the palate.
It definitely cleanses the palate.
Yeah.
Definitely cleanses the palate. I guess I get some different fruits in the intersection of these. Apricot, maybe.
Okay.
Just in the intersection, just chasing the whiskey with the tea.
Right.
There's something there. It's interesting. I'm trying to like put my finger on it.
Ooh, back into the whiskey again.
Kind of makes it savory somehow. It's like there's something almost like soupy in there.
But it's not a savory like umami or a
No,
mushroom.
it's
type
like a
of-
broth. It's like
Yeah.
it's like a bone broth or something. It's something like savory like that, kind of like sticky savory.
Yeah.
Okay, try this one. This is a later steeping.
Okay.
I think I hit it a little bit harder. So
So, well, it's interesting because Highland Park's notes are, honey-drenched oranges, so they do go in that citrus, and that fruit direction. Spiced fruit cake, so all sorts of those various fruits, And then, the peat is actually very gentle and not at all,
No.
in your face.
Yeah, this is like if there was a campfire, it's a campfire across the lake.
Exactly.
yeah.
Somebody's burning something
Yeah.
somewhere, but
the neighbors out here, like, where's that coming from?
yeah.
yeah, but it's good. It's not like it's not pretending it's not smoked. You know what I mean? That's like, it's like if you don't like smoked stuff, don't drink it. If you don't like it, that's how I feel about people. I guess like I'm not obviously I'm not in like the chat rooms as much. I'm not in the message boards as much, and so I like get these ideas. Like when I talk to whiskey people and we're talking about peaty scotches, there seems like there's this kind of like thing with them where a lot of people are haters or whatever, and it's like you don't have to drink it. It can just exist. You don't have to drink it. It's all good.
If you don't like it, pick another one and move on.
Exactly. It's all good. You don't have
Leave
to drink
more
it.
for us.
Yeah, but it's cool that they exist, and I love them personally. I freaking
Yeah.
love them. That's like I said, my first liquor, not just whiskey, but liquor that I actually enjoyed was Lafroig, and
Okay.
actually that's the first time I truly enjoyed alcohol in and of itself.
Yeah.
just like being able to appreciate the
Without being in a
alcohol
cocktail
component.
or anything, just
Well, I never
Yeah.
I never like cocktails. I never like Jack and Coke. I never like cocktails. I just don't like sweet alcohol in general.
Right.
I'll drink a fancy ass cocktail that's got an egg white or something in
Yeah.
it. I will if it's good.
Yep.
But I'm not trying to drink like generally sweet alcohol. But everyone was always like, oh, you don't like drinking, so let me give you this sweet alcohol.
Right.
Let me give you like Jägermeister, shit like that. And so this is my first time because like Lafroig is not trying to be sweet. It is not trying to appeal to any like natural human impulses to consume things. Like nothing that the human body wants you to consume is in that flavor profile. But it's like drinking fire, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. It's like drinking fire. It's like drinking a campfire.
And
That's cool. I love fires.
And their marketing actually follows that as well. They're actually leaned into the strange things that people say about it. It's like being slapped in the face with the mop from the hospital.
what's interesting.
Very specific. Jeez.
Going
Only
back
British
and forth,
people would say something like that.
going back and forth between the two, it definitely brings out more of the fruit on the nose.
It really does.
All right, let me give a little last hurrah here. I did a long steep of this. Look at the red. So this is going to might be unpalatably astringent, but let's see.
See what it brings to the
I just
party.
juiced it a little
Yeah,
bit.
it's looking red now.
very red. Yeah, very
We have
red.
a
So let's see
mutual
what
friend
happens.
that believes that his tattoos were the inspiration for Highland Park, or that Highland Park were inspired by his tattoos.
Yeah.
As a whiskey commentator, we know who that is, right?
Yes. Interesting that the longer steep
Oh yeah.
also got.
Ooh, yeah. That's like cherry. Now I get like cherry. I get like some kind of kernel, some kind of like kernel of something. Like apricot kernel or something like that.
With
Like
Boston
almond,
baked beans.
yeah, Boston baked beans. Now I kind of want to try them, honestly.
Not the
I'll have
baked
to
beans.
find
But
this one.
what do they call those? It's not Boston baked
no,
beans.
they're-
That's the molasses
Yeah,
beans.
that's the molasses
and-
bean. No,
Yeah.
it's the Boston. I'll look it up.
Yeah.
I'll find it. And
I think they do just call them that, don't they?
they might.
And they're
It's
just
a
like,
little red box.
no
about
one's
this
going to
big.
mistake
and they
these
look-
for
yeah.
actual beans.
Yeah.
They look
you know.
like, yeah.
So, no, it's interesting that the extra long steep on the nose, I get less of the fruit. It's still there, but I get less of the fruit. I get more of that deep umami.
Yeah,
Right.
You get the
You
cacao.
know.
That's where you get the
Yeah.
cocoa. It's more cocoa than cacao. It's more like cocoa powder, like or brownie, baking cocoa. Yeah, or like hot chocolate mix or something like that.
Yeah, the tannins here are more of a citrus tannin, and the tannins over here are a drying,
Right.
woody tannin.
Cool. Well, this was an awesome pairing. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for
Yeah.
having me. This is a blast.
So Cliff, you're a whiskey somm. You help out at the academy on many occasions. We see you at least 3 or 4 times a year.
Yeah, I try to get down at least 4, maybe even as many as 6 times a year if I can. So.
You've been doing some charity work with the whiskey
Yes.
mentors.
So I'm one of the lucky ones that lives in Connecticut, close enough that I can go hang out with Irene Tan, who is, Whiskey Mentors is her shtick, and she does a lot of charity work. She's also blending a lot now, obviously for Crowded Barrel as well as some others, and I'm lucky enough to get to go hang out occasionally and play around and experiment. We'll do blind pours and things like that. So it's a lot of fun, but.
As we mentioned before, she has a ton of single barrel picks at her store in Connecticut.
Yep.
Cool.
It's called Coventry Liquors.
Canterbury Liquors. Yeah, if you're ever in the Northeast,
Yeah.
anywhere from Boston, it's about an hour to an hour and a half south of Boston.
Where they make the beans.
Yeah.
Back around.
If you find yourself in that area, it's worth trying to carve out a little time to swing by, because she has in the last 3 or 4 years, she's picked well over 100 and some barrels, many of which are still available in some quantity. And
Let's get her on the show. I hear about her
know.
all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, who is this woman who is on the top of this industry that everyone has so much like reverence for? Who's like Chinese, Vietnamese, something like that. There's
You're right,
like
in Singapore.
Yeah.
Singapore, probably
Yeah.
Chinese. That's probably Chinese then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they got Chinese people, Malaysians, and Indians. That's what
Right.
Singaporeans are usually, one of those
Yeah.
3 things. And so, yeah. But that's like, as a Chinese American, I'm like, wow, who is this lady who is completely like, everyone
Dominating.
thinks so highly of her.
Yeah.
And I hear about her all the time in this podcast. So let's get her on. If you're watching,
myself-
Irene, please come. Please come.
Myself, I made a special trip, and Cliff was there, Brian was there, Irene was there. I ended up getting into traffic on the I-95 and was running late, and they were gracious to wait.
absolutely.
And it was a great.
we heard
tasting.
Richard was coming to town. We're going to hang out. Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, I highly recommend it if you're in the Northeast to check out that store, and what she's doing is fantastic. And also Cliff is a big part of that as well. He's one of the somms with the palate to help help curate and guide some of these things.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cliff, for being here.
Thank you. I really enjoy appreciate the invitation. This is a lot of fun.
And thank you, Sohan, for the use of
Yes.
West China tea. We're here until December the 15th now.
December 15th.
The
Come on
DOT
down.
gave us an extension.
Yeah, TxDOT. Thank you, TxDOT. Yeah, come on down. We also got a ton of new tea in, so if you're not in Austin, go to the website and try some different teas with whiskey. Honestly, they're all pretty good. What I've learned from doing this show is that you pick a tea and you drink whiskey with it, they're usually pretty good. There's something pretty good to get. But this one is a really especially good one. Awesome.
And
Thank
every time I'm here, I see more packages getting ready to be delivered, more packages that are packed up to go. You have a tea club where people are
Yeah,
getting
you got a
things
monthly
mailed.
subscription. If you don't know what you like, just subscribe to the thing. We'll send you stuff every month. We do a live Zoom where people who are subscribers, we get on Zoom with them. I get on Zoom with them. We make the tea together. They've got the tea at home. I've got the tea there. We taste it together. I give them notes on steeping and tasting it. So, yeah.
Yeah, so if you like what we're describing, order some. Cheers.